My question is this: you have a new budget. I just saw that in one of the local papers.
Yes.
And that's proposed by the city manager first.
Yes.
Now, that's only a proposal, correct?
That's the city manager's budget.
Right, it's a proposal. It is like the working draft.
Right. Well, it's more than that, because if the council cannot come together and pass a budget, his budget becomes law on December 1st, under our charter.
Okay, now it calls for a bit of a tax increase.
It calls for a 5.9% tax increase. However, it's really calling for an 11% tax increase. But he steals, I'll use the word steal, he takes money from a segregated or restricted account. When they enacted the transfer tax, the money from the transfer tax went into a segregated account to be used solely for the construction of the firehouse or fire department. A lockbox. And they're saying, well, it wasn't passed by resolution, so it's not it's only segregated, it's not a restricted account. So legally we can tap into that. And he taps into it for about $1.5 million.
I saw that. See, what bothers me, because it was the same with the dedicated funds to the MTA. We pay dedicated funds to the MTA that's supposed to go to the MTA. And every year the state takes that money, takes a good portion of it, and puts it in the state budget and not in the MTA.
Right.
But we were sold that this was supposed to go to the MTA. City of Peekskill was told this transfer tax was supposed to go for the new firehouse. Then it comes, we got all this little extra money. Why don't we take it away from the firehouse? Don't they call that bait and switch in business?
Oh, I don't know. Everybody calls it something.
I mean, isn't that the epitome of bait and switch? We're going to do this with that, but when the time goes, we're going to take it, we're going to put it over here instead.
Yeah.
So is that something that you're going to, how do you foresee these?
Well, I'm against using the restricted money that was taxed on people for the firehouse for any other purpose.
Right.
Listen, if you go out with your wife or your partner or your family and you go on vacation, if you work and you make $100 a week and you spend $150 a week, you're going to have a problem at the end of the week. You're going to have a 50. So you can't say I only want a $10 a week raise, but I want to spend $150 a week, and that's what they're doing. They run around and, we kept taxes under the cap last year. And we have a $1.4 million deficit, another $1.5 million deficit that we predicted. It's on tape, and that tape is going to be shown over and over and over again.
But there was another thing in the budget I found interesting, that he wants you to pay the full amount of the pension deficit.
Bravo. I was against pension deferrals. These are obligations that you incur every year. You have to pay it. Look, if you didn't pay your rent or your Con Ed bill every month and you just put it on your credit card, it's not that you didn't have a utility expense that year. You have it now on your credit card. You're just moving it from one column to another. And what people are going to be told and people are going to realize is that 5.9% tax increase, 3% of it is strictly for the 3 years of pension deferral, the mandatory repayments on that. 3%. And that's every year for the next 10 years.
But that money that he wants, that says we're going to clear it. Now, this clears up the backlog.
This is only the first year.
Right.
It's a 10-year repayment. And actually, the first year that we deferred, that 10-year period starts now. Next year, we'll be repaying 2 years.
So what is that million, that $4 million, is it that he said, or $3? What is the exact amount that he wants you to pay all at once?
The payment this year on the deferred pension,
there's only 300,000.
Is 3%.
Right.
It's 450,000.
Okay, 450.
It's about 130,000 is 1%.
But he wants you to pay more than that.
No.
The budget said
we're repaying the mandatory repayments on what was deferred, and we're paying in full next year's pension obligation.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. So next
Okay.
year's pension obligation
is being paid in full.
Right.
The way it should have been.
Right. So it's not like you're going to put it into some venture.
We're not going to kick the can down the road for another year.
Right.
Because if you do that, eventually, we're up to almost $500,000 in pension deferral payments now. When your total pension obligation is, I guess it's going to be about $4 million this year. Another $500,000 is going to be on just the 3 years that we deferred. So, and that deferral has to be repaid over a 10-year period. So this is serious money over a long term. This is, if you pardon the expression, I'm cleaning up the mess from the previous 3 years. And it's not a question of fair or unfair. It's a question of getting the facts out there, being truthful about it, and taking responsibility for it.